Hey, good evening, folks. How is everyone doing tonight? I'm doing okay. Woke up this morning. Made the usual concerto of appropriate noises, nothing extra. What I'm really worried about is the day I wake up and I don't make any noises. I know I didn't wake up. All right. It's been all over the news feed, and you've finally seen it by now. People are outraged. It took 5 days. 5 days for any of the mainstream infotainment channels to pick up the story of the 5-year-old kid that got shot in his head by his neighbor. The kid was white, the neighbor was black. People are livid, and I mean absolutely livid. Now, I'm going to say that the majority of people who are livid at this tend to be white and conservative, because the second we hear of anyone else shot, child, say take Legend Talafiero, I'm not downplaying the fact that the kid got shot in the head in his bed because somebody fired through the wall of his house. It's fucking atrocious and horrible. That was instantaneous news. The girl in Atlanta who was 8 and got killed. Instantaneous news. I mean, 15 minutes, every wire had picked it up. They even had photos posted of the suspected shooters from the security camera up the very next day. The mainstream media buried this story. This happened on Sunday the 9th. What's today? 14th, 15th? Today's the 14th, 5 days. And it finally got traction yesterday, and that's when people started to really freak out. I have a television. I don't watch television. My television's a monitor. And if I watch anything on the monitor, it's podcasts and webcasts. Yeah, I'm one of those people. I didn't even watch Shark Week. But what's got people so hyper upset over this, and this is a cascade event. They're in day 75 or 80 in the Portland siege. We watched Minnesota burn. We watched Atlanta burn. We're watching Chicago burn. We're watching everything burn, all in the name of Black Lives Matter. People are a little fed up with the double standard. Okay? Now, you're a racist. Black Lives Matter. Bullshit. Explain to you why. This kid did nothing. He's 5. The idiot, his last name is Sessions, I believe, like Darius Sessions or something, and they found him in a different township in North Carolina. North Carolina does have the death penalty, by the way. I just don't know if they have the Texas version, the express death penalty. But he shot this kid in front of his 2 sisters and his cousin. That would be 3 witnesses. And in Texas, that would get you to the front of the line to ride old Sparky. Don't think that's a bad thing. I honestly don't. There's no reason to keep this piece of shit alive. I don't know who the guy is. For all I know, he could have been the nicest guy in the world until he snapped. Because Trump's a racist. And the white man held him down. And where's my reparations? And all the other bullshit that gets pushed out there by the mainstream media, the propaganda arm of the DNC. Okay? And everything that we see going on now, just to incite the flames, because we must have civil instability, because Trump is bad, and it looks like he might get reelected because he did too much and the coronavirus didn't collapse him, are completely different subjects for another time, but I believe the mitigating factors will finally push this idiot over. Throwing it out there. I'm not black. I'm not subjected to black channels. I don't watch black news. I don't listen to black music. I know that's a horribly racist thing. It's not for me. Flip side, I don't listen to K-pop or Jap pop or Swedish death metal. Oh. This flood of bullshit, though, has got to stop. I think the thing that people are not understanding, because they're not being shown. Okay? I've covered this before. If you stay inside your box and you never look over the lip, you don't know what the fuck's going on in the rest of the world, you will have an inside my box only view, period, the end. Sad, but it's true. A lot of people live that way. Because if you showed them anything else, it would complicate the bullshit picture they have built up in their heads. I have black friends. They're not numerous, but to tell you the truth, none of my friends are numerous. You don't keep a big crowd. The more people you keep, the more problems you're going to have. But I have worked with black guys that I really liked. As a matter of fact, right before the hospital closed, worked with a really nice fella. He was from Texas. He was about as nice as you could be. The motherfucker was so polite. He would call me Mr. Eric, and I'm like, dude, you can't call me, you're black. This is Arizona, it's not Texas. You're going to call me Mr. Eric, you're going to get my ass fucking fired. His name is Keith. He's a great guy. We would sit and bullshit for hours. He was as weird as I am, and he is the only other person I've ever met that knew and liked the movie Liquid Sky, which was a really small B movie from the side, but he was a B movie guy. His big thing was he liked Steely Dan. I'm okay with Steely Dan. So we go back and forth on music while we were sitting at the desk waiting for work to come up. Really good, solid fella. He and I meshed so well, he could have been a plant by the fucking alphabet agencies making sure I wasn't up to something. And I'm up to fucking anything. Right, that's happening. But I'm just saying, could have been. Great guy. Ryan was a security guard I worked with at the hospital. Fucking great kid. Parents raised him well. Their skin color made no difference. We were friendly because it worked that way. The chemistry was there. The difference being, we also had the same kind of cultural touchstones. We believed in more or less the same things. Personal responsibility, privacy, rights. I don't discuss politics with black people because their politics and my politics could be exactly the same. It could be completely different. Don't fucking know. Don't fucking care. I honestly don't. Well, that's what's bringing me back around to this. See, both of those guys were raised by their families in a cohesive family union. Okay? The problem with what we're seeing in Detroit, Chicago, LA, New York is the dissolving of that family unit. LBJ's Great Society, where they paid the men to leave. Well, they didn't pay the men to leave. They removed their fiscal responsibility from the men so they didn't have to pay for their children. And the women married the government for the monthly check. We covered that before. We're not going to go through that. When I break things down, I try and do the math. I try and follow the money. I try and see what makes the most sense. And I will go from fucking 0 to infinity on normal or crazy, and I'll start taking out the stuff that's just way out there. No, space aliens did not come down and beam these thoughts into this guy's head, okay? No. He wasn't visited by a ghost that told him he needed to go out and kill that kid. No. But if you consider real possibilities, Whatever's left, no matter how unlikely, is most likely the answer. Loosely phrasing Conan Doyle. That being said, I look at what's going on, especially from the mainstream media and the political parties, and the reason for the division in the country. A cohesive country is not in anybody's favor. Well, that's not true. It would be in our favor. The rest of the world, no. So you could say Russia, or you could say China, or you could say New World Order, or you could say the Illuminati. I've said it before and I'll say it again. We're a threat to any kind of hegemonic cabal because we still have the Constitution. They have to dissolve the Constitution. I firmly, truly, and honestly believe that their agents are deeply placed in our government. All levels. All of them. This brings us back around to what the problem is here. Civil war does not benefit this country in any way whatsoever. It just doesn't. Division isn't good for us. It's not good for anybody. It makes stupid shit like this happen. This poor 5-year-old kid gets shot in the head because this fucking 25-year-old moron's been weaponized. And here's where we get to the part where people are going to get upset. Just throwing the facts out there for you. The blacks in America make up 13% of the population. The blacks in America have been quite literally pampered. Now you're thinking pampered like towel on the head and slices on the eyes and things between the toes. I'm not talking that kind of pampered. They've been sheltered away from having to shoulder their responsibilities. And when I say that, I mean in all honesty, if the government wasn't writing checks to these people, the black portion of our society wouldn't have collapsed. When we were still pre-Great Society, pre-welfare state. And Larry Elder's the one that brings this up all the time. Even Thomas Sowell grew up in New York. Larry Elder grew up in the South, I think. Or no, he grew up in LA. So, your coastal elite cities. Both of them grew up before the Great Welfare State became a thing. Have both documented that black communities were, for black people, they were happy there. They were culturally homogenous. That doesn't mean white people could go into black neighborhoods. White people went up to Harlem all the time for music. And you know what you didn't have? You didn't have this shit. You didn't have people being weaponized saying, fucking white, get him. How dare whitey come here? Well, we'll go back to the 80s when the black kids were in Howard Beach and they got fucking chased down and piped in the head and shit. We didn't have that division. We didn't have that division because we hadn't made black a special subspecies, an endangered species, or a most favored species, or whatever you want to fucking call them. Why they did this, I'm just going to go with the simplest explanation, is they wanted to control them. They wanted to keep them on the plantation. They wanted to be able to tell them what to do, and they wanted to form that block so that they would never have to worry about them voting any other way than what they were told again. That's what LBJ said. Give me access to Social Security, I'll have those niggas voting Democrat for the next 200 years. Well, you know what? It's been 70, and they got wise. They're not playing that fucking game anymore. Black people are leaving the fucking Democratic Party like friggin' Cubans from a raft when it hits the sand of Miami. but we've removed their responsibility for themselves and their actions. This is what fucking happens. We did it to the latchkey kids, and now we're looking at the children of the latchkey kids, because the latchkey kids had no idea how to raise their kids because they weren't raised. They were left to free range. Now their kids are coming up. It's fucking scary. I say this for everybody because I think it's important. When Hillary said it takes a village to raise a child, what she meant was it takes a government to indoctrinate your child. But she's not wrong. It does take a village to raise a child because it takes a homogenous set of cultural values to instill cultural values into your children. And when the blacks had their own separate but equal, or whatever you want to call it, homogenous society, so to speak, they reflected the views of everyone else in the country. There was none of this, well, showing up on time is obviously a sign of white supremacy. Well, being able to read and write and math, white supremacy. There was none of that. They were successful black businessmen. They were black millionaires. People don't fucking understand that. They think that everything before 1964 was black sharecropper in the South. They were there. That was their choice, and that's what they knew. It doesn't mean they couldn't have been successful. The one thing they did, though, and this was what they did in my neighborhood when I was growing up, was your village policed you. I ran with a big crowd of kids. I mean, if we had a beach party, there could be 250, 300 kids, all the different neighborhoods. But otherwise, I ran with 10, 15, maybe 20 people in our neighborhood. And you knew each other's parents. And the neighbors, if they didn't recognize me, they recognized Victor, or they recognized John Boy, or John, Melonhead. And so if we got caught doing anything really fucking stupid, you got lit up. The other thing we had that they don't have anymore is community policing, because the cops in my neighborhood lived in my neighborhood. Yeah, Kelly and Marino hated those pricks. They stole more of my fucking beer and fireworks. We don't have that anymore. Taking away the responsibilities. This guy was 25. He's third, fourth generation in the last 60, 70 years. Who raised him? Single mom, most likely, maybe grandma. But he's fed all this bullshit. Fucking snapped, shot a 5-year-old in the fucking head. Doesn't make the papers. White people are getting really upset with this. White people are getting really upset with, I don't really give a fuck if you burn down your own neighborhood, but when you start coming to my neighborhood to burn it down, we got issues. You've seen the videos of peaceful protesters being walked out before they started shit. You've seen the Ken and Karen video. And they want to prosecute them. Who wants to prosecute them? The black DA that's paid for by George Soros to help sow more derision and division. Go figure. Anyway. It's a tragedy that this child died, but the bigger tragedy is how long it took anybody to notice and bring it to the forefront. And the biggest tragedy, that there's nothing that can do to bring this kid back or to unscar his sisters and cousin. Because the people who program the drones, who run the disinformation franchises, don't give a fuck about you. They don't give shit one about you. Cattle on a tax farm if you're lucky. I don't know, folks. I really wish we could splash all this bullshit. But I've always said 99% of the problems in this country is protected status, special status, snowflake status. The gays, the blacks, the Asians, I don't give a fuck what you are. How is that your defining thing? I drink beer. Is that my defining thing? Is that what defines who I am? I don't think so. It might for some other people, though. Like their party affiliation, or their skin color, or their religion, or whatever. The short-sighted, small-thinking people, this is what happens. But they understand it, and that's why they target them, and that's why they use them as weapons. We need to unweaponize as many of these people as possible. Throwing it out there. That's about it. It's hot. Doing the Horn Church thing here. It's probably still 105 or so. I'm just going to leave you with that. We vexed partisan. I mean, people call him a Nazi all the time. He's not a fucking Nazi. Ethno-net maybe, but not a Nazi. But he believes that we should go back to small communities. And yeah, wouldn't be the worst thing to do. Do they have to be homogenous? Depends on which definition of homogeneity you want to use. Homogeneity of skin color, or homogeneity of ideals, or homogeneity of ideology? Religion? Don't know. We need to do something, though. Turn your television off. Don't buy into the bullshit. If you start buying into the bullshit, hit me up. I will try and talk you down from it. I do it to friends of mine now as they start to freak out. I may not be the best guy, but it could be the only thing you got. Don't hesitate. All right, folks. Thanks for popping in. I'm done. I'm gonna go jump in the pool because it's still freaking hot out. We'll see you on the next one. I have a really nice beer coming up. What do we have? 21st Amendment, Hell or High Watermelon. Somebody's working on their puns. Anyway, I'll see you then. Thanks for swinging by, folks. Have a good rest of the evening, and just kind of let the shit flow over you. Don't snap like this fucking moron did. It's not good for anybody. Ugh. Fizzy water and ice cubes. Not bad it's got. Scope.